Hey everybody, hope you're doing well as I am today, and today we're talking about VCA channels, or voltage control channels, and we're going to cover how they're helpful, a couple of tips that you might use with the VCA channels in, and actually why you might need them, as I find that many people just overlook them and just say, why do I need a VCA channel when I can just use a bus? And the VCA channel does differ quite a bit from a bus in several ways. I'll just briefly cover that, but I want to concentrate more specifically about the details of the VCA channel. I've got two VCA channels set up in this situation here. The dark blue strips are both VCA channels. This one here is for my basses. And then this one for my drums. And just right off the bat, you'll notice that the VCA channel does not allow for inserts or sends or that sort of thing, unlike the bus channels. Okay, and then even my effects channels, I got a drum effects channel that you can put the effects or inserts in, obviously. And now let me just show you a couple of things. First of all, the VCA channel does not change the routing of anything. These tracks are still going to the main out, but the faders are controlled by the VCA channel, and that's indicated right below the fader here, where this is going drum VCA to this channel here. Now if you don't see that in your setup here, click the little wrench, brings up this window, and show VCA connections right there. If I uncheck this, watch below the fader, how that disappears. So this is how you bring them back into view. Okay, and let's just concentrate specifically on these drums here. I'll solo them, and I've got two instances of drum actually happening. I've got Superior Drummer 3, and then I have a instance that I'm running along parallel here of Impact. So an electronic kit and then an acoustic sounding kit that I like to combine together. I do this a lot. And so once I feel that I have this blend here, I can, like I say, I showed you previously, I can control all the faders here. Now I want you to note that I can bring up, say, the kicks, and then it changes the fader and they still stay in the same ratio. And I'm going to show you a little bit more about these kicks here, so hang with me here. Okay, so we've established that they're basically control faders, and then that's really their main function. And you go, well, okay, Chris, well, that's great. Big deal, big whoop. Consider this scenario, you've got 100 channels, you've got one of these monster sessions here, and so, or even with the drums, a lot of times the drums you might have two inputs for the kick, you might have two snares, a couple of overheads all the time, so you may have 10 or 12 channels just devoted strictly to drums. Once you have that mix down, okay, now you can control all of these just with one fader. And you say, well, I could just go ahead and nest them in a folder and that sort of thing. And yes, I'm not saying this is the only way, but this is a very convenient way. So I could theoretically go ahead and hide these tracks and then just control everything with a VCA fader. If I had 15 tracks of drums and I'll just leave them, and they're all blended, then I can put up my VCA fader. And then I could have my VCA fader for my bass. And just even in this quick session here, I could eliminate 6, 7, 8 tracks and just replace those with these two. Okay, so that helps for visibility. Let me show you another tip that I think you're going to find extremely interesting and actually quite useful. As you note, I've got an effects channel here, a drum effects, and I have the Valhalla vintage reverb on it, and I put this specifically on my snares. Let me just get back into play. And you can hear that I've got that on my snare. I'll pull down my effects. Okay, And I pretty much like to leave that at 0, and of course we're on 100% wet on the effect. And then these is controlled here as well. So I've cut 2 different sounds going into my effects channel. Okay, this little whatever you want to call it, it's hard to see what it looks like actually, is called a pre-fader switch. So whether if I flip this on, the little light goes on and you notice the bar changes to an orange, that means now that these effects are pre-fader. Generally the effects chain is after the fader. So if let me just show you here. I'm going to get back to post fader here, which is normally will default to. If I bring this down, it's dropping the reverb at the same amount. Okay, let me bring in these other drums here to help illustrate this effect here. I'm going to go ahead and get pre-fader, meaning that the fader will not affect the amount that is being sent to my effects channel. And then now as I bring the drums VCA down, I'm still hearing the reverb. So this is a good way to have your drums or whatever you might have set up to go to a VCA and disappear into the reverb. That's a very common trick, used in a lot of things. Let me show you one other little trick here that I find extremely useful. And the way to set up a VCA channel, there's basically 2 ways to do that. Let me just run through that really quickly, and then I'll show you what I want another trick for this. So hang tight with me. You can go up and click track, and then where is it? Here we go. Add VCA channel for selected channels. That's one way. My preferred way is if I right click on a channel, I can add a VCA for that selected channel, or I can just add a VCA channel. I'll just click this to show you, and here up pops the VCA channel. And it comes immediately to the right of my first grouping here, my first instrument. And let me just go back to this little wrench here and show you something again. You can keep the VCA channels to the right. If I had that checked, meaning it would go all the way over here and be combined with all my bus and output channels. Or I can just leave that unchecked, and therefore it stays near the instrument that I'm having the faders controlled by the VCA channel. This is my preferred way to do that. And so let me just go ahead and undo that. Another thing is if I go ahead and click one channel and then go ahead and hold down Shift and go over here, I can select all the channels. Now I can add a VCA for all the selected channels, and that's what I've done in this situation right here. That's where my blue channel controls all these. Okay, let's just get something a little bit trickier here. I've got my kick drum here for my electric kick, and my kick drum for my acoustic superior drummer. And what I would like to do is I would like to go ahead and select that, and then I'm going to hold Control, and I'll select both of these. Now I can add a VCA channel for my selected channels. And up pops this. And so this is going to VCA 1. VCA 1 here. Notice that this will control my kicks. Play this. Whereas now, if you notice, I've changed the routing of this entire group, because now my drum VCA does not control this VCA 1. Well, let's fix that. Like I said, you've got the indication, the labeling of what is actually controlling that. Well, simple, we can just go ahead and click drum VCA. So now this is a master, and then I can use this to help blend in my kick. So this is another fantastic way to get a blend. So I want to go ahead and bring my kick up a little bit. Bring up my two kicks together. I'm happy with the blend between these two. Now I want to go ahead and maybe bring up my drums just a little bit. Or I could just have the drums fade off into reverb that I was talking before, since I have these as pre-fader. Let me do that again, and I'll just exaggerate this effect. And there you have it. Hopefully you've got some insight into VCA channels, why you want to use them. They're a very fantastic feature, just fairly recently added in PreSonus Studio One. I use them all the time. They're extremely useful for me and my workflow, and hopefully you'll find them useful in your workflow. And that's it for today. We'll see you in the next video. Hey, remember, subscribe, smash that button notification. Make sure I've got more of these type of videos coming up on bus, why to use a bus, effects channels, all that sort of thing. Don't want you to miss them, right? Okay, we'll see you then. Thanks a lot, guys.